Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Commission, for the invitation to speak today. My name is Alysa Medina. I'm the East Tennessee organizer for the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, or TIRC. We are a statewide immigrant and refugee-led coalition whose mission is to empower immigrants and refugees throughout Tennessee to develop a unified voice, defend their rights, and create an atmosphere in which immigrants are recognized as positive contributors to the state. We envision a society in which immigrants are powerfully engaged as leaders in civic, political, and cultural life of the community, and that the human rights and dignity of all people are respected, that diversity is welcomed and valued, that people are free from discrimination and oppression, and that immigrants can join with others in a broader movement for religious freedom and social, racial, and economic justice. In order to work towards these goals, TIRC focuses on community organizing and leadership development, and that is the main part of my job as the East Tennessee organizer, to go into immigrant communities and help them to build their leadership, to examine the causes of discrimination and oppression within their communities, to find common interests, and then organize together for better conditions. And that brings me to the reason that I got involved with TIRC 4 years ago, first as a volunteer and now as the East Tennessee organizer. I am one of the 16.5 million family members that live in a mixed status family. My husband is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico that immigrated to the United States 22 years ago. We have been married for 8 years. He migrated after his 21st birthday and is now 42 years old, and his situation has still not been able to be resolved. The necessity in his family was great. He had to leave behind brothers and sisters and his mom in order to help support his family. After his father's death, he became one of the main providers in his family. And because there were no opportunities in his small town, he came on the long journey north, crossed the desert 22 years ago, and found work, began to learn English, and 10 years later, met me, and we fell in love. Despite the repeated attempts that we made to change his status, my husband and I have always hit a brick wall. We've gone to immigration attorneys, gone for consultations, and we always get the same response. You are not eligible to fix your husband's status without having to face 10 years of separation under the current immigration law. Because of the current status of our federal law and our immigration's broken system, upon applying for my husband's residency paperwork, he would be forced to leave the United States to go back to Mexico in order to gain his final visa. Upon crossing the border back to Mexico, the U.S. government will impose a 10-year bar on his re-entry to the United States. This is impossible to imagine for a family. It's impossible to imagine the loss of the father of my 4 children for 10 years. What about their birthdays, Christmases, soccer games and plays that he would miss? My son's first communion, their proms, getting their driver's license, graduations, entering college. My oldest son would be 24 before he came back. My youngest daughter would be 12. Let alone the day-to-day contact that my children have with their father. They need their father, they need him as a role model. He suffered not having a father. He suffered through that and he knows what it's like. And so this is not an option. As for many other families, both mixed status families like ours, in which one member of the family is undocumented or several members undocumented, and the others are residents or citizens, or families in which all the members of the family are undocumented, we are forced to live with the daily fear that our family members can be torn from us, separated. No one can imagine the daily intensity of the fear that overtakes us in the simplest situations. In the morning when my husband leaves and goes to work and has to drive to work without a driver's license because undocumented immigrants cannot get a driver's license. I worry that he may be pulled over or have some kind of encounter with the police, even a fender bender. Or when I see the look of terror on my children's faces when a police officer pulls behind us while we're driving in the car, fearful that my husband, their father, will be taken from them. My children have internalized this fear, and every time they see an official or a police officer, they're scared. So families with undocumented members live with this daily terror underlying everything that they do in life. There's no planning for the future because there's the constant worry in the present. There's problems in the undocumented immigrant community about housing, denied housing sometimes because of their status, limited access to where they can live, difficulties in our case, for example, in obtaining home loans. We've had a dream to own our own home for a long time. But because of my husband's status, we are not eligible for loans. We also face a lot of difficulties in the workplace. Employers can easily abuse and exploit undocumented workers. Wage theft is rampant with undocumented workers. Harsh working conditions. Low wages. And many times, immigrants are working long hours without access to breaks, without overtime. Add to it that it's very difficult for an undocumented member of our community to get a bank account. So anything they do make, many times, is kept with them in cash. So that makes them susceptible to theft and robbery, as other community members realize that they will be carrying that type of cash on them. The driver's license issue is probably the most important issue that faces our community right now. Many undocumented immigrants have to drive to work or to school, to take their children to school, to doctor's appointments, to go to grocery stores, and they have no access to getting a driver's license because they don't have a social security number. Driving without the license, it also means that they can become targets to local police officers that recognize that that is a problem within our community, and therefore they pull over undocumented immigrants frequently. And instead of giving warnings or citations, undocumented immigrants are then taken to the jail, and under our Secure Communities program here in Tennessee, they are fingerprinted, and ICE holds and deportation cases are opened against them for minor traffic violations. So things have gotten even more difficult as the years go by. We were able to keep 287G from the Knox County area last year through some of the work that many of our allies worked and our coalition worked together, and the great work of the Comité Popular. These programs and Secure Community work to link local law enforcement to the immigration system and the deportation machine. These programs target undocumented immigrants driving without licenses and subject them to deportation. And what it leaves behind is a wave of children separated from their parents, put into local foster care systems, or even adopted out to other families. Add to all this that local police officers, especially in rural counties, use racial profiling to target members of our community, following them and arresting them over and over again. Anti-immigrant rhetoric fills the media and the halls of our legislature, causing further policies which divide our families. And this rhetoric then drips down and it poisons the hearts of a new generation of children, who then repeat the hate-filled language against immigrants. Immigrants are spoken of as less than human or undeserving of our compassion. Immigrant children are bullied and harassed in our school systems because their parents speak a different language or because they look different. And it's not just by fellow students. It's sometimes by the teachers and the administration. All the while, these immigrant families suffer in silence. They're afraid to lift their voices. They're afraid to defend their rights, lest it brings spotlight onto their own situation and risk to their undocumented family members. So that is why my husband and I began to organize with Turk. That's why we have decided to take our story public in order to raise awareness to this issue, in order to fight back the pain and the terror in our communities, to speak for those who may be too afraid to speak for themselves still, until a lasting change can be created. The lasting change that we speak of goes far beyond reform. Reform to our outdated immigration laws. Immigration reform is important, but immigration law that has as its central component not more enforcement, but the promise that families will not be separated any longer. That a child does not have to fear that they will not be able to live with their parents, or that their parents could so easily be taken from their midst. Reform that holds the family unit as the most important thing. It's true to our American morals, and it's true to the immigration system that we have seen in the past, where the family unit is the most important. And puts a stop, a reform that puts a stop to the inhumane programs that drive the deportation machine and create so much terror. More than that, more than immigration reform, we need to look back as a society, as a community, back into ourselves. We need to understand that we have maybe have come a little bit on the road to embracing diversity, but we have a long way to go. And we have to have some hard conversations about what race and color and national origin mean here in the United States, and what it means to be a diverse country that's embracing to everyone. So I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, we will answer.
We do have one question. It goes, Senora Medina, are there a significant number of Latexo laborers and undocumented farm workers in Tennessee? And then there's a statement, many don't speak Spanish or English. Can you sort of elaborate on that a little bit?
Okay, sure. So Tennessee is the fourth fastest growing immigrant population in the United States. We have a lot of immigrants that are coming from various different backgrounds. Normally when people hear about immigrants, they think automatically of Latino immigrants. But we have a very diverse base of immigrants in Tennessee. We have immigrants that have come from Somalia or from Liberia. We have immigrants that have come from Asia and different parts of Asia. We have immigrants from all over Brazil. We were just talking a little bit about a story from immigrants from Brazil, Canada. People don't necessarily think automatically of that, but we do have a very large population. Even in Nashville, one of the largest growing populations there is the Kurdish population, which it's the second largest community of Kurds in the whole world. So it's amazing. So if we have a very, very diverse base of immigrants. Now, having said that, many of the immigrants here are Hispanics or Spanish-speaking as well. So there are a lot of agricultural workers here in Tennessee because we have a lot of rural areas that need agricultural workers. But immigrants also cross over into other types of parts of the economy as well. So there are more in the rural areas, large bases of agricultural workers, but in the cities we have a lot of people that work both within the tourism industry, we would say, and then also within construction and various other. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And we have one more question, and it is, do you get any support from the African American organizations in your struggle?
We have begun to form, in some areas, more support between the two communities, but unfortunately, in certain areas, we have not crossed that border very well, and we are trying to extend our hand as Turk as well to the issues that affect both the immigrant communities and our brothers and sisters in the African American community, because I think many of the issues that we both face are based on race, color, and discrimination. And so it is very important as we are building our coalition that we reach out to one another and that we support one another in our struggles.
Thank you so much.
And to encourage
people who may be homeless